My name is Sarah. I live with my paralyzed husband, the man I promised never to leave. Last night, my sister came over and cooked dinner for both of us. Everything felt normal until we finally sat down to eat. I lifted my spoon, and suddenly my husband shouted, "Don't eat that!" I froze. He looked at me with fear in his eyes and said, "Before you touch the food, you need to see something." Minutes later, my entire world collapsed. But before I tell you what actually happened, please like and subscribe because what I'm about to share still scares me to this day. There was a time when our home was full of laughter, late-night movies, and small arguments about nothing important. My husband Daniel was the kind of man who made ordinary days feel special. He used to cook breakfast every Sunday. Burnt toast, too much coffee, and a smile that made me forgive everything. We had plans and simple dreams, a bigger house someday, maybe children, maybe traveling once life slowed down. But life didn't slow down. It stopped. 2 years ago, Daniel was in a car accident. I still remember the hospital smell, the cold chairs, and doctors speaking in careful voices. He survived, they said, but survival came with a price. The injury damaged his spine, and from that day on, he couldn't walk. I watched the strongest man I knew learn how to sit in a wheelchair, learn how to ask for help, and learn how to hide his pain so I wouldn't cry. Those months were the hardest of our lives. Bills kept coming, friends slowly disappeared, and even relatives stopped visiting. Except one person, my sister. When everyone else stepped back, she stepped in. She moved into our house without even asking. She cooked, cleaned, helped Daniel with therapy exercises, and stayed awake with me during sleepless nights when fear wouldn't let me rest. She told me again and again, "You're not alone. I'm here." And I believed her. Honestly, I don't know how we would have survived without her. She became the strength of the house. Daniel trusted her, and I trusted her. Sometimes I even felt guilty because she gave up her own life to take care of us. She never complained, never showed frustration, always smiling and always kind. Neighbors used to say I was lucky to have a sister like her, and I agreed. Slowly, life found a new routine. Mornings were quiet, afternoons filled with therapy sessions, and evenings peaceful. It wasn't perfect, but it was stable. We learned to live with pain and to be grateful for small victories. And for the first time since the accident, I truly believed things were getting better. Daniel started smiling more again. Not the same confident smile he once had, but something close to it. He began working remotely from home and even joked sometimes, and every small improvement felt like a miracle. My sister was always there beside us, helping Daniel move from bed to wheelchair, cooking his favorite meals, and reminding him to take medicine when I forgot. Sometimes I would watch them talking and laughing while I cleaned the kitchen, and my heart felt peaceful. I kept thinking maybe tragedy brought us closer. Maybe this was how families were supposed to be. One evening, after a long therapy session, Daniel looked unusually tired and barely spoke during dinner. I assumed it was pain because rehabilitation drained him every day. Later that night, when I asked if he was okay, he forced a smile and said he was just exhausted. I didn't question it. Life had already taught me not to overthink every bad moment. Days passed normally and nothing felt wrong or looked strange, at least not to me. My sister continued helping us more than ever, often insisting that I should rest. "You do too much," she would say. "I'll handle everything tonight." And honestly, I was grateful. Caring for someone you love is beautiful, but it is also exhausting in ways no one talks about. So when she took responsibility for small things, I let her. One afternoon, she arrived earlier than usual, carrying grocery bags. "I thought I'd cook something special tonight," she said cheerfully. Daniel nodded politely, but for a brief second, I noticed something strange. He didn't look happy. He looked tense, and his fingers tightened slightly on the armrest of his wheelchair. It was subtle, so subtle I almost ignored it. Later, while she cooked in the kitchen, I saw Daniel watching the hallway quietly. He wasn't working or reading, just watching. "Everything okay?" I asked. He hesitated, then gave the same answer again and said he was just tired. I believed him, because why wouldn't I? That evening felt warm and normal, and the smell of food filled the house. My sister laughed while cooking, telling stories about neighbors and old memories from childhood. For a moment, it felt like life before the accident, like nothing bad had ever happened to us. Before leaving, she wiped her hands and said casually that she had something urgent at home and that we should eat while the food was hot. She hugged me tightly, a little longer than usual, then smiled at Daniel in a way I couldn't fully understand at the time. Then she left. The house became quiet again, just me and my husband. I placed the plates on the table and steam rose from the food. Everything smelled perfect and comforting. I picked up my fork. Daniel was watching me, not eating, just watching. I laughed softly and asked if he wasn't hungry. He didn't answer. His eyes stayed fixed on the plate in front of me. I lifted the fork toward my mouth, and suddenly his voice exploded across the room. "Stop!" The word hit the walls like a gunshot. My hand froze in midair as the fork slipped from my fingers and fell onto the plate. I stared at Daniel. He had never shouted like that since the accident. Never. His face was pale, but his eyes were clear, focused. "Don't eat it," he said again, slower this time, controlled. My heart started pounding. "What are you talking about?" I whispered. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he slowly reached beside his wheelchair and picked up his phone. His hands were steady now. Too steady. "I didn't want to believe it," he said quietly. "I prayed I was wrong." My stomach tightened. Wrong about what? He pressed something on the screen and turned it toward me. It was a video from our kitchen, recorded earlier that evening. The camera angle was from the top shelf, hidden. My breath stopped. As the kitchen door opened in the video, my sister walked in, looking around carefully, then took something small from her purse, a tiny bottle. My hands began shaking. In the video, she opened the bottle and poured something into our food. I felt the world tilt. "No," I whispered. Daniel's voice trembled slightly. "I installed that camera weeks ago." I looked at him in shock. "Why?" His jaw tightened. "Months ago, I overheard her on the phone. She was angry, saying the accident should have finished me." My chest felt like it was collapsing. "I thought I misunderstood," he continued, "but strange things kept happening. Medicine misplaced, drinks tasting different." He looked at me with pain in his eyes. "I had no proof, and I didn't want to destroy your relationship with her without proof." Tears blurred my vision. "So tonight?" I whispered. "She thought I was asleep," he said, "but I watched everything." The room felt suffocating. Then headlights flashed outside our window, and a car door slammed. My heart stopped. Daniel looked at me calmly. "She's back." The front door unlocked. Soft footsteps entered the house. "My God!" my sister's voice called out. "I couldn't stop thinking about you two. I came to check if everything is okay." Her tone sounded worried, fake worried. She stepped into the dining room and froze. We were both sitting there, alive, the food untouched. Her eyes moved slowly from the plates to Daniel to me. Then Daniel did something I will never forget. He stood up, slowly, calmly, without support. Her face turned white. "You," she whispered. He walked a few steps forward. "I was never fully helpless," he said quietly. "I just needed the right moment." I turned the phone toward her. The video was still playing. Her hands began trembling. "What is this?" I asked, my voice breaking. For a few seconds, she said nothing. Then suddenly, she collapsed into the chair, tears pouring down her face. "He was supposed to be mine," she screamed. The words cut deeper than any knife. She admitted everything. Years ago, before Daniel and I married, she had feelings for Daniel, strong feelings, but he chose me. She smiled at our wedding. She hugged me, but inside, she never forgave us. The accident, she said, was a chance. She planned it. She wanted him gone. When he survived, she decided if she couldn't have him, no one would. I felt sick. This wasn't jealousy. This was obsession. Daniel quietly pressed a button on his phone. Police sirens echoed in the distance. He had already called them. Minutes later, officers entered the house. She didn't fight, didn't deny anything. They took her away in silence. As the door closed behind them, the house felt empty, broken. Daniel stood beside me. For the first time since the accident, he was standing tall. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I wanted to protect you." I wrapped my arms around him, and in that moment, I realized something terrifying. The most dangerous enemies are not strangers. They are the ones who smile at you and call you family.